Talking with the experts.
I also think, that part of the reason that I look at the framework and I've kind of listed these four things for making these types of decisions is frameworks and structure enable me anyway to make really clear decisions, justify or explain it, communicate it to other people so that your team and staff and even customers understand why you're doing the things that you're doing. You have some kind of framework. The framework I use to think about that, what you just said, is really the three value disciplines. And those are operational excellence, customer intimacy, and product leadership. And many businesses, many small businesses particularly, don't even know about them and certainly don't know where they fit.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name is Rose Davidson from rosesdavidson.com. And Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. And you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And I would love it if you could go across to the channel, click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the bell so that you know when all the videos have been uploaded. Today, my guest is Sturdy McKee, and Sturdy is going to be discussing with us reimagining your business for a future that is already here. It is critical that we adapt our businesses in a changing environment, and never has the environment changed as rapidly as it is currently. Business owners need a framework and a structure to make the right adaptations and to mitigate their risks. We'll dive deep into how to make the right changes to open up opportunities and thrive into the future. Welcome, Sturdy, and thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rose. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
I've appreciated some of your...
You love business owners to thrive and adapt with a structured and in a disciplined way, and thinking about what changes they need to make. I mean, everything's changed in the last almost 2 years. And businesses have had to adapt, change, pivot. I don't like the word pivot, but I can't think of any other word to use, to stay viable. So how do you help them to do that?
Well, yeah, to kind of define the change a little bit, there was a lot of stuff that's already happening, right? There were Zoom, like what we're doing now, on different continents, right? Well, I was using remote meetings to manage some of my clinics 8-10 years ago, and working with a coach who was in New Zealand 10-12 years ago. So some of these things have been happening, but they've kind of been thrust upon us more recently, and there are a lot of things in the environment that have really been changing. Chip rate and the nanometer measurement and how fast chips are operating, AI, the cryptocurrency. There are lots and lots of different technologies and things that have been out there that have been happening, and things that I coach business owners and help them implement these changes, among other things, just get their operations dialed in, the kind of less sexy part, right? But these were adaptations and things we were talking about. Well, 2 or 3 years ago, we were talking about on a 5 to 10 year timeline. Like, consumer behaviors are going to change. They're going to expect more remote access. They're going to expect more convenience and all that. Well, with the advent of COVID and all the adaptations people have made during the pandemic, a lot of those things that kind of generally take us a long time for people to adopt and to adapt to and to accept those changes, that's all happened really, really rapidly. So, online scheduling for medical practices, as simple as that sounds, 3-4 years ago was really, really difficult to get doctors and other healthcare providers to take that on. and now it's expected, right? And we kind of knew that was going to happen, but that's happened in a really condensed timeline more recently, and it's left a lot of business owners kind of spinning and not knowing where to prioritize their effort, not knowing exactly what to do. There's so many opportunities, there's so many paths they can run down that that those choices can be pretty daunting and be pretty scary for a lot of folks as well. So that's the piece, the part that I think is kind of disconcerting for a lot of business owners, and they're not exactly sure all the time what to do or how to prioritize or what's going to get them the best result, the biggest impact for the least effort, those types of things.
Yeah, I know a lot of businesses were technically challenged, to put it that way. A lot of business owners, they, would use the emails and have a website, but they always had a web designer and
right.
Those sorts of people to look after the back end of their business. I've noticed a lot of people have had to up their technology skills to be able to just thrive within the business world totally.
Yeah. No, they really have. And but beyond that, I think one of the things that's been kind of interesting for me anyway, a lot of what I do is more in the healthcare sector, not all of it, not exclusive by any means, but it took a long time to get a lot of the kind of medical providers, physios, physicians and stuff to accept telehealth, and including a payer system. So I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in the US, Medicare are, for older adults, wouldn't pay for telehealth for a lot of conditions and a lot of providers. And they adopted that and changed and decided, yes, we'll pay for those visits because people can't come in. And there's even debate about whether or not they're going to keep that. But so that's how archaic like the government stuff is, right? But providers are realizing that patients want it, consumers want it. And it's just an example, but really that is an incremental change because you're still in an environment where it's a transactional, a visit, whether it's in person or whether it's telehealth or whatever, it's still a pay for, the visit and have the interaction in the visit. And it's not really any kind of a change in the model per se, it's just maybe a little bit more convenient. So it's an incremental step. But I think one of the things, the promise here was to explain a couple of things about how you could actually do this and what I think is so critical. If you really want to pivot and really want to change, and I'm not a huge fan of the word either, by the way, Rose, but the pivot thing, I'm being here in Silicon Valley, it's way overused. But the idea is if you productize a system in your business, if you take something you already have and try to offer it to a different audience, you're really starting a whole new business from scratch. And that every entrepreneur, every business owner knows how hard that is. And, people shy away from that, and rightly so, I think, because starting a whole new business all over with an entirely new audience, entirely new customer base, new service, new product, whatever it is, that's really daunting. And it's, it's a steep uphill climb and a steep learning curve and a long way to revenue and all that. So what I work with clients to do is really think about a couple things and create a decision matrix, a paradigm that they can use. And it starts with their vision. And in my case, I'm calling the vision these three components: your higher purpose, your core values, and your big ambitious goals, or maybe your BHAG, like where you're going, why you do what you do, which a lot of business owners, especially if they've been doing it 10, 15, 20 years, have lost touch with, and kind of maybe feeling mired down in the details and burnout and what have you. And they need to go back to the, why did you get into this crazy journey in the first place? Why did you do this? What inspires you? What fires you up, and get back in touch with that, and then lay out the core values, articulate them. And core values are really something that lay out the behaviors, the how we're going to do things, how we're going to act, our code of conduct. And when you hire based upon those, when you make decisions based upon those, you're really reinforcing the culture that you want. You're getting buy-in from the people that really also agree with your values and the vision and what you want to do. And number one, your business becomes easier to run because your others will self-select out. They'll leave. They don't believe in the vision. They don't believe in the values. They realize they're real, and you're actually going to hold them accountable to them. They don't want that. So some of those folks that don't fit will exit, kind of gracefully, or sometimes not so much, but generally a lot easier than you trying just to clean house and start over. But anyway, you've got the higher purpose, the core values, and the big ambitious goal, or BHAG. And those things kind of tell you where you're going, why you exist, and how you're going to behave along the way, along the journey. The fourth component is really what your target customer deeply desires. And I think one of the big errors we make in business and is trying to appeal to too many people, trying to appeal to too wide an audience. And, we're not Amazon or Walmart or, Weibo, or, we're not trying to get millions and millions or billions of customers. Most of us can't handle that. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but if you're really focused down on your ideal customer, and I don't just mean the one that's most profitable or just the one that's an influencer or whatever, those things are nice to have too, but really that mentality of they really value what you do, they really value what you offer. They're the folks that, let's say you have a scheduled appointment or visit, or they're coming in, they're the folks that you're really excited are the first ones there on a Monday morning, right? Or the last ones there on a Friday, because that's going to kick off your weekend and you're feeling energized. And they're folks you want to stay late for, or move your lunch for, or you'll figure things out because you just enjoy really working with them. And when you figure out who those people are, and again, part of the challenge there is they don't necessarily fit a traditional demographic description. We tend to get into the demographics, especially, I don't know, there's a disproportionate kind of attention to the VC world and private equity and seed money and all that stuff. And they want to know that stuff because you can count them, because you can tell them the size of the market, right? And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, then we want to invest because the market's so big or whatever. For most of us in business, how many 35 to 45-year-old mothers who drive a minivan or whatever isn't really relevant, right? And it doesn't really describe who they are, what they care about. So you really want to get in touch with what are their values, what are their behaviors, what are the things that they really desperately want and desire. And when you do that, the cool thing for me is a lot of traditional demographic stuff goes out the window. So, if we go back to kind of that physio model of maybe a sports medicine, people like to work with, we'll call them athletes, but we're all athletes. We all have bodies, we're all moving, we're doing stuff. But they're looking for that person that's motivated, that wants a solution that isn't medicine or medical or surgery or surgical or imaging or whatever. They want, they'll be an active participant. They'll be engaged. They're motivated. They'll stick through the plan of care to finish and achieve their goals. And when you figure out that kind of mindset, then do you care if they're a 17-year-old cross-country runner or an 83-year-old tennis player or a 45-year-old gardener, and what gender or whatever? All that other stuff kind of goes out the window because you've got this psychographic definition, this ideal. But you take those four things together, right? The three components of the vision and the target customer, and then you look at what are all the things that target customer really, really wants and buys and does, spends money on anyway, and match that up with what you're really good at, what you can get paid for. But as a caveat, make the full list of the things that target customer does. Okay, so that in our example before, do they have a CrossFit membership? Do they buy running shoes? Do they, all the things? But you list all the things. Do they belong to a gym? Do they belong to a running club or a soccer team or whatever, right? And maybe you're not going to want to go start a soccer team. Okay, fair enough, right? You're not going to start a gym. But you start identifying things, and from that list, there may be some things that fit with your purpose, with what you do, with your level of expertise, what your company, your people are good at, and you can identify opportunities there to provide additional offerings to the same target audience that already knows, loves, and trusts you, right? So that's a whole lot easier sale, a whole lot easier expansion than trying to get people, new people to know, love, and trust you.
Yes, I'm finding that a bit of a challenge in my own, my day job business.
Sure.
Because a lot of I cater mainly for presenters and speakers and coaches and consultants, and a lot of those people are not very tech savvy, or they're not comfortable speaking to an inanimate object like a camera. They're usually used to speaking to real people that they can get an expression from their face and all that interaction. So it's been a real challenge to get them to adopt and adapt to bringing their presentations online. And then some speakers and presenters and so forth have just not bothered to do that, and they found other employment. So it's been a real challenge for me because of that particular reason. It's just the technical side of it they're not comfortable with, and it's hard to get them to adopt something that they haven't got the mindset for.
And you just nailed it. That's the key thing. If you go back a step and let's think about the vision and the intersection of the target customer and what they want. For those speakers, their audiences, the people that they address, want the knowledge, right? But they also might want the convenience. They might want asynchronous. They might not want to go into a big conference room right now with a whole bunch of other people. So they're going to, do you want it live, remote? Do you want it at your convenience where, after you put the kids to bed, you can watch or you can see or whatever? But if they start designing it around their target customer and around the behaviors, around the things that individual, really wants and values and can benefit from them, there are all kinds of tools and ways of delivering. And the other cool thing about like the technical thing, because you said the mindset, and the mindset is key, because there are other people that are technically savvy that can help you put it together, right? I mean, if I wanted to do an online course, personally I did because I was curious, but you don't have to build it and edit it and upload the stuff and do all that. You can get an assistant, you can get somebody who's capable of doing all that stuff and loves doing that stuff. And, you record the content and then you tell them what you want and they put it there, and, they can put up the landing page and send the email out and tell your past customers or organizers or whomever, about what's available, how much does it cost, what's the benefit, all those kinds of things. But it absolutely is the mindset, because if you're not thinking about all of these things from the perspective of your target customer and what they really want, then we're making businesses that are more convenient for us that aren't for them. And there may be times when you really, we used to do this in clinical practice. We intentionally did things that were less efficient and less convenient for us because it was better for the patient, and that was a deliberate decision. Well, that's not the way a lot of businesses run, right? It's their own efficiencies. But if you're going to say that we serve and we have a higher level of service, then you've really got to put that into the decisions and how you craft it and how you're thinking about those people and putting them really front and center when you're making those decisions.
Yeah, I think that's the step that a lot of businesses are missing. It's they're looking at their own convenience rather than what is convenient for the client, customer, audience, whatever. And that to me should be their primary focus, is the people that they're serving. And I think they tend to forget that.
Well, I also think, that part of the reason that I look at the framework, and I've kind of listed these 4 things for making these types of decisions, is frameworks and structure enable me anyway to make really clear decisions, justify or explain it, communicate it to other people so that your team and staff and even customers understand why you're doing the things that you're doing. You have some kind of framework. The framework I use to think about that, what you just said, is really the 3 value disciplines. And those are operational excellence, customer intimacy, and product leadership. And most many small businesses particularly don't even know about them, and certainly don't know where they fit, right? And if you're looking at operational excellence, that's the Walmarts or the Amazons or the FedEx or UPS or those kinds of logistics companies that really serve a large number of people and a large number of units, whatever they do, at a relatively low margin. But it's just that they get their margins off of their efficiencies. So they will make decisions deliberately that are not as convenient for the customer, if it makes them run better, or maybe not as convenient for the employees if it makes it more efficient. And that's their emphasis. You can really only be excellent at one of the three. You got to be somewhat competent at each of them, but you can really, you put all your time and effort and energy really into one of them, and you can really excel at that. And product leadership is another cool one, but unless you're Tesla or Apple or have a line around the corner, when you're releasing a new product, you're not really there. A lot of us like to think we're doing something new, but not to the extent that, we mean when we're talking about that as a discipline, as a true discipline. But a lot of smaller businesses, particularly service industry, others, they're in the customer intimacy game, and they lose sight of that. As you said, they lose sight of that. They don't really truly put the customer first. They do things because it's more convenient or more efficient in their workflows. It makes things simpler for them. And they're missing a huge opportunity because the big guys are all doing that. And if you try doing the same things the big guys are doing and you're competing on their playing field, that's a rough playing field. You want to differentiate yourself qualitatively by truly being different. If you're going to raise the bar on service, then raise it. Do everything around it. Go through your physical space or your website or anything else as if you were a new customer going there for the first time. And what do you experience? Is it frustrating? Does it move smoothly for them? What can you do to make that experience better and better? Because we don't have the benefits of scale. We don't have some of the efficiencies that the big guys have. We don't have the resources. And, in general, many of us have to charge a higher price. But we can certainly justify that with the experience and the service and the focus that we provide to these folks and to the customers. So, yeah, I love what you said. It's mindset. It's the deliberateness of the decision making. It's putting that customer in the center.
My own website, I've had people come and say, like web developers say, you've got too many menu items. And I think, well, no, because
right.
I want my customers to not have to search for things. I want them to go straight to the ball game that I'm, wanting to lead them to, rather than having to click on this menu item and then get a whole big landing page that tells them absolutely nothing until they get to the bottom. And because that frustrates me, I hate it. When you want to buy a new process, and you've got to go through this 2 or 3, 4, 5 pages of a landing page until you can actually get to a price. I mean, I give up halfway through because honestly, I don't want to read all that crap. I just want to know how much this process is going to cost me. At least have a pricing thing up the top or something that you can just go to straight away. But I think they've missed the plot somewhere along the line. They just want to get the engagement on their websites, and I don't think they really care that. To me, it's a bloody waste of time.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. They're measuring effectiveness and measuring different numbers and looking at different things. Your SEO ranking and your whatever. Well, I mean, if you Google business coaching, you're going to find a whole bunch of people before me, and I'm never going to end up in the top 10, for SEO. So I'm 100% on board with you. You design the site to be convenient for the people that are going to go there. That's another that's a whole other tangent, on the marketing side of things. There are a lot of marketers who they're looking at, visits and reach and all this. And ultimately for me, it's about marketing is generating leads, right? If it's not generating leads, then why am I spending the time and effort and money and energy on it? It's got to You got to connect with those people that are interested, that want to learn more, that want to know, how can you help me, or can you help me, and let's figure that out. And the other thing, I'm sure you do too, but coming from a medical background, if I can't help you, or I don't think that you're in the best place, I'll refer you to the best place, or the best place I know of anyway, right? So it's not about closing every sale. It's about getting the right people on board that you can have a great impact for, and then getting the other folks out to the best place for them, so they can, still get the results that they want.
Some business owners are so afraid to refer on if they can't help a client or customer.
Yeah.
They won't refer on because they think, oh, well, I'm giving this opportunity to somebody else. But, you just got to say to the client customer, look, just tell them that I referred you. And if they do that, then whoever you've referred them to will most likely refer their clients' customers back to you as a courtesy, because, they can't help them. And, people still haven't got the idea of collaboration, between businesses. They still think, oh my God, I've got to stay in this niche. I've got to hold on to these people, rather than sharing them around, because what goes around comes around. So really,
exactly.
Anyway, thank you for explaining that process, because honestly, I think a lot of business owners, it doesn't matter what field they're in, you're right, they've forgotten their customers. The efficiencies seem to be the main focus, and it's the customer journey. That's what businesses should be focusing on, is the customer's journey.
Absolutely. And, you just mentioned collaboration, and that's the other piece of, if we roll back for a second, and that list I asked people to make of all the things that their customers buy and spend money on anyway, you're looking for the intersection of what you can do on that list that, especially if it's not already being done well, for your customer, because that's another potential offering for you. Everything else, though, that you decide not to do, that somebody else is doing, those are your potential strategic partners, right? Because all those other people, all those other companies, all those other services or products that you listed are serving your same target customer. And there are all different kinds of ways that you can potentially collaborate with them, and to introduce them to your list, to your group, to your audience, get access to their audience. You can create all kinds of relationships that are mutually beneficial for that. But the other thing too, like I had a client who was a physio practice down in Florida, and his target audience were mainly, he called them functional athletes, power lifters and CrossFitters and stuff. And one of his friends from high school was the rep for this new line of CrossFit shoes. And we were talking about this stuff, and he's like, oh, he was wearing the coolest new shoes going into the gym, and people were literally stopping him before he could work out, asking about them. We're like, well, the guy. It's like, yeah, I know that, the regional rep, and he's great and stuff. Like, we had to introduce him to what a pop-up shop was, right? I've been married long enough, I know what a pop-up is. But we're like, yeah, could he do a pop-up, and you invite, all your past patients or patient list or stuff in? And he did. And he had this is before COVID, but he had 30, 40 people in the clinic in an evening for an hour and a half, trying on shoes, being taught about how these are different and new and all. And, all he had to do was buy some sparkling water and crackers and stuff, right? And send it out and host, open the doors. And he didn't have to do much of any work. He looks like a rock star. He's connected and provided additional value to his customers, his patients, and, the community. Meanwhile, benefiting this other business and his friend, who, yes, he will reciprocate. They're doing things the other direction too. So it simplifies your marketing, and it doesn't even feel like marketing a lot of times, right? It's providing additional value. People love what you're doing. They tell other people, they bring their friends. That's a great opportunity, and there are tons of those. But you have to go through the actual exercise of writing the stuff down, thinking about it, and then, leveraging the relationships you have, or developing new ones, or however you can end up making that work. It's really it's the implementation, the execution that's the hard part.
Yeah, but it's a great it's a great place to be when you can do that.
Yeah. Well, we can all do it.
Yeah, they just don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Sturdy. Have you written any books?
No, not yet, but I'm working on one collaboration with my old business coach. So we're going to be releasing something soon. So stay tuned for that. But no, not as of yet.
All right. And podcasts, you're just guesting, or do you host anything?
Yes. Yeah. I host the Focus Forward Business podcast where we, and like you, it's on all the major platforms, and you can just say, hey, Google, play the Focus Forward Business podcast, or Siri, or whatever. But we go through really the entrepreneurial journeys and stories of different entrepreneurs, and it's been really cool. I've been interviewed a couple people lately that are just really awesome, and definitely check it out, because it's a little bit more, it's not a how-to so much as lessons learned, story, journey, things that challenges they're facing, all those types of things, at the time that we do the interview.
Yeah, that's so what's the name again, just to make it clear to people?
Sure, it's the Focus Forward Business Podcast.
Excellent. The Focus Forward Business Podcast. Well, go and listen to it, people. I'm not embarrassed to promote other podcasts on here. So
no, likewise. That's awesome.
And Sturdy, where can people find you?
SturdyCoaching.com. And really, with a name like Sturdy McKee, if you Google me, you can probably find stuff I don't want you to find, but you can definitely find me. There's no anonymity on the internet. So yeah, and with a name like that, you tend to stand out. So yeah, not hard to find.
Lovely. All right, Sturdy, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom today. It's been very enjoyable, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Rose.
Bye.